Okay, it's the magic hour. Bobby, Grace, are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is the fifth in a series of our GHS Golf Heritage Society Summer Grand Zoom series. And we'll have one more in 2 weeks with Lee Dunbar, who evaluated the Arnold Palmer collection. So that will be fascinating to hear about. So stay tuned for that. So the Golf Heritage Society is having a convention this year. It'll be hosted outside of Pittsburgh in Monroeville at the Doubletree. We're excited about that. We have a fantastic program. You'll love the program. We're going to play golf at Latrobe Country Club. We're going to play for the traditional Hickory Championship and then add a new thing with the Classic Division for a championship there too. So we're really looking forward to that. We'll have a 4-day get together. So we have plenty of time to interact with each other. We're working with the hotel for their safety protocols, and we will announce some special features about that. We're actually looking to do some Zoom on site so we can spread people out. For those who don't want to be in a classroom setting, maybe they can stay in their room and still be connected to the presentations. So we're working on that. I'll visit the hotel tomorrow. So stay tuned for some of those things. So I'm just going to say thank you to Bobby Grace, and Jim Jesselnick will introduce him. Jim Jesselnick is a past president and as they say, a future Hall of Famer. And I would very much like it if Jim Jesselnick would take over and introduce Bobby. Jim, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you very much. It's really our pleasure to have Bobby Grace join us tonight. Bobby has had a very successful career making and developing putters, not just for people like you and me, but for people like Greg Norman, who some of you may have heard of along the way. But tonight, the focus is really going to be on the passion and the really true love that Bobby has for the history of the game. And he is going to share with us not only some of his special collectible items, including one, I hope, that he's going to share with us that just came in today. I'm really excited. You're going to be blown away when you see this, but trust me on this. And so just a couple of protocol things. Bobby's going to go ahead and talk. We'll get to a certain point, and then we'll go ahead and pause and allow some opportunity for questions. You can either use the chat feature on Zoom or just raise your hand or yell out. And the final thing is, in order so we can really hear what Bobby has to say, please try to minimize any noise you might have in your background, including Fido barking or wanting his dinner. So with that, oh, and by the way, Bobby is one of our past grand champions of our National Hickory Championship and will be back as a defending champion this year. So take it away, Bobby.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jim and Bern. I just want to thank you guys for really being the heart and soul of this organization. There's so many people out there that do what we do and are not connected to our organization, our society, that I know will be coming into the fold in the next year or two, simply because, as you see from the internet, that we're working it on Facebook. You see how many new people we're getting. I think that's exciting. And I was blessed early on to grow up across the street from a semi-private, semi-public golf course in St. Petersburg, Florida. And my father was a real student of the game. My dad, when I grew up, I was 12, 13, 14 years old. I figured out, oh my gosh, my dad's using Tommy Armour 985 irons and 693 woods. And he's club champion. He hits the ball 290 in the air with Balata balls and persimmon woods. And, he used to win driving contests. He used to hit all the par fives with a driver and 8-iron. I mean, he was really a player. And so I learned a lot about the game from him and the love of the game, the history of the game. And fortunately, the club that I grew up at, Pasadena Golf Club, was rich in history. Our first pro was Walter Hagen in 1925. And the pro across the pond from us over in Sarasota was Tommy Armour at at Sarah Bay, and they used to have those famous golf matches back and forth. So I was really happy to grow up in a place that had so many great players, and there was a lot of gamblers. I didn't gamble, but I used to caddy for the gamblers and really get in and watch all this stuff. Well, long story short, there was a couple of guys at the club that worked on the PGA Tour, and they knew all about these things called classic clubs. And once I found out about a couple of gems that they used on the tour that they didn't make anymore, that they were all hunting to look for, to buy. Then I found out that there was collectors everywhere buying them, that there was obviously Japanese, German people. There was all these people around the country that were looking for the same golf clubs that were being victorious in these tour players' bags for years. Well, I had a guy that in my neighborhood worked on one of the tour bands, and he's the one that taught me a lot about what was on tour, what was being used. It was really an education. And then I discovered this older gentleman over on St. Pete Beach who was a member of your Golf Collector Society for years, and his name was Fred Moser. And Fred was such a gem of a man. He taught me, took me under his wing. He taught me all about the Tom Morrises, the McEwens, the Hugh Phelps, all of the stuff I'd never seen before, because you just don't see that stuff unless you're in someone's collection. Well, so I learned about the classic clubs, and immediately, because I was across street from a semi-private club where all the snowbirds would come down from up north, haven't even touched their clubs in 25 years. And you'd see these gems coming along. And of course, I'm hawking them and trying to buy them. Oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. Well, then I went out to one of the tour events, and I met Andy Bean. I was about 15 years old. And Andy Bean was explaining to me a sand wedge that he was really, really hunting. And David Graham happened to be standing there too. And David Graham goes, wait a minute. He says, and he grabs his sand wedge and he says, this is what I'm looking for. And he starts telling me how important the sand wedge is. Well, it didn't take me 3 more weeks. And in St. Petersburg, I found my first sand wedge that Bean was looking for. I bought it for $25. I was 15 years old. I think I made $35 or $40 a week. And I went and hunted down Andy Bean and sold it to him for $75. And I was going, I can't believe, I was so excited. I should have kept that check and not cashed it, but it was a lot of money to me. So I still do have a check from Ben Crenshaw, though. Later on, I ended up making him a handmade putter, and he wrote me a check for $500, which was pretty cool. But anyhow, I learned all I could about the classic clubs. And once I joined the society through a recommendation of Fred Moser, and I got to meet Bob Coons and Mr. Murdoch and all these great guys. And I came to the society's meetings, and I started playing in Hickory tournaments. I said, well, my gosh, this is great fun. And that, like you said, Jim, I was fortunate to shoot even par and two different years in a row in 1990 and 91, and I had 4 and 5 birdies, and won the national 2 years in a row. That was really, really neat. But then I had to go to work because I started making putters, and I had employees, and I had all these things called accountants and lawyers, and oh my gosh. But enough on my business. I really want to tell you, there was like 4 guys in my upbringing that I really I have to give them credit, because they really taught me as much as they could about these collectible clubs and this entire world I was so hungry to know about. There was one guy in Clearwater named Bobby Mckee, and Bobby Mckee was a PGA pro and been there all of his life, a PGA pro. He schooled under somebody that you'd J.C. Goosey Jr. A lot of people know that name from the mini tours on the east coast of Florida. Well, he had a big collection of 8802s and Palmers and all these great things. And he told me, he says, listen, he says, let me tell you how to collect things. You collect things that the tour players love. You collect the 3 major things. He says, drivers, wedges, and putters. And he says, those are the magical clubs in the bags of the tour players. And I said, wow, okay, that makes sense. And once I started hunting for these things and I found the right ones, the drivers, the wedges, and the putters were really, really big time. I used to find my favorites obviously are the 945s, the M85s, the 693s, the M43s. Those are all the deep face ones that Greg Norman won with, Freddie Couples, Davis Love the third, Nicholas, all the guys that were really great players. Every one of them used these golf clubs, and very rarely did you see somebody using a power build or something like that compared to. So I started studying what the tour players were using. And I started studying past ways, what they won with. And it made such a big difference to me, because as I am going to share with you tonight what I like to collect, sometimes it's in relationship to what has won on the tour. Sometimes it has a relationship to what I used to play with in high school. These are a lot of great reasons, because if you look behind me and you see about 50 of those Silver Scout Armor putters, 3852s and all, they're made in the 30s and 40s. Well, I putted with those in high school, and it was actually one of J.C. Goosey's putters. And, I have great memories of that. I give you a quick story. I played with a mini tour player against two other mini tour players when I was 19, right after high school. And I'll never forget, I wasn't great, and I didn't really gamble. It wasn't my gig, but they were all playing for money, and I played with them. And I remember I had to make a 16-footer on the last hole, and my partner looks at me and says, "Show me why you use that putter." And I drained it. And we make money. And I'll never forget that, because I had to make that putt, because everything was on the line. It was pride, but I believed in that putter. I believed the confidence I had in that putter helped me make that putt. And another thing you'll see in my collection especially is, you see these, the Wilson Design Barnal Palmer putters. I only collect the ones that look like the guy died falling out of the pro shop when he bought it. They're like new. I love these things. I played with these for 11 years in a row in competition. And this putter, the one putter, got me into the US Amateur. And I also played in the British Amateur with the same Design Barnal Palmer putter. So again, there's so many different reasons why people collect things. I collect them because it brings me back to the time when I used to be a +3 handicap and could always shoot under par. And I remember the confidence I had in that putter and who won with that putter on tour. I mean, you've got the Gary Kochs of the world, the Ben Crenshaws of the world, the Larry Mizes of the world, all using that same blade with ultimate confidence, and all kinds of amateurs around the country the same way. And it helped me. I mean, it was really fun. So matter of fact, I just bought another Palmer. I think I've got 5 or 6 really good ones. And I just paid $1,450 for one. I mean, that's a lot of money for a Palmer in today's age, and it's beautiful. And I'm so happy to be able to buy it. But it's funny because the prices and some of the people buy and sell for a living and all. I do a lot of things for the love and the passion. I have some things I would never sell. I have some things I would sell, but most of the people I meet in this business is everything's for sale. Well, just it's the right number. Well, it's not true, because there's certain things that bring me back. Like I've got these. I remember telling you about, Jim, the Blue Goose putters.
Right.
The Tracy Parks Blue Goose putters. I really got to go into that, because when you find these, and this is the one that you had pictured in the magazine, the GHS, and this is a very ugly little putter. I mean, look at this. It's got dings all over it. To me, this is worth a car. I mean, this is really big. This brings me to my teacher's past, Skip Alexander, who was a Ryder Cup captain. And he won all of his tour events in the 40s and in the 50s with this same putter. And most people have not even heard of T.S. Parks. Now, here's one just like the one you saw before, but it's got the smaller stampings on it. And this is really in superb shape all the way through to the original grip and all. And you never see these surface. You never hear anybody ask for them. On the back of them, you'll usually see a big stamp, Blue Goose, like that. These are very soft aluminum. Well, this is interesting because the putter that I made that we sold 350,000 of them, this is the Fat Lady Swings. These putters have a lot in common. when I was making the mold for this Fat Lady putter in 1994, I went to Skip Alexander, who was still alive then, and I said, Skip, what was the best feeling putter you ever had in your life? And he didn't bat an eye. He said the Tracy Parks Blue Goose. And this was amazing because I said, I knew you were going to say that. And of course, I didn't have one. So I had to run my ads around the country where I was buying all these golf clubs. And I drummed up a couple of Blue Gooses from Texas, of course. They're from Houston, Texas. And I got it in and I cut the neck off one of them, just a tiny bit off of the long neck to send it into the metallurgist to tell me what is this metal. And they said it was 356 sandcast, which is really a very soft aluminum, a very gummy aluminum. It's not very good for machining, but it's very good for a mallet putter because it comes off so soft and so solid. And so I chose that metal, obviously. We made the mold. I brought it to Nick Price. The rest was history. He became #1 in the world with it. And it was the best feeling putter he ever had. And it was really because of my, what do they say? Clubaholism. That's a word, clubaholism.
Absolutely.
Skip used to laugh at me when I was 15 and 16. He says, you're a clubaholic. I said, well, okay. And I loved it so much. And that led me into where I could make putters and make right choices because of materials and feel and look and all. But that's interesting because most people have never even seen a Blue Goose. They don't even know what it is. They think it's a Ray Cook later version, and it's not at all. There's Tracy Parks from the 40s and 50s used to dominate the tour, and they were out of Houston, Texas. And I'll tell you why you don't see many of them, because he had 2 sons working for him who obviously hated the business, because when Tracy Parks died, the 2 sons burnt the plant down because they just couldn't stand it. And you never saw another Blue Goose putter. And obviously when you leave the tour, that's when other things happen. They happen to come into play. But over the years, and you're going to hear a lot about putters with me. Now, as I was taught, focus on drivers, wedges, and putters. Putters got under my skin more than anything. And as you see, even today look at the PGA Tour, Cantlay and all these guys. It's a putting match at the end, and it's a putting infomercial. So I got to say, people say, well, how much of the game is putting? I say 90%, because if you have the confidence in your putter completely, you're gonna dominate that game against anybody. What's that famous Willie Park saying? A man who can putt is a match for anyone. It's all about confidence, all about making that putt. But the drivers, wedges, and putters. So I have some really good drivers. I love the drivers. I love the rare drivers. Rarely do I get into the refinish stuff. Even if I buy one that's stripped, this one here is a jumbo LFF. Now, we can't even tell you what LFF stands for because we're not supposed to. It means let the you-know-what fly. But we can't tell you what it means. You'll have to learn on your own. But it says LFF right on the bottom, and they're really deep face. They're very rare. And there's still a few guys that refinish these things professionally. I'll just show you that the 693 driver, which is one, I'm telling you, if you went back and found out all the tour players who won with the 693 and the 945 driver, you would list about every great player in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In those 3 decades, every one of those guys were using this 693 driver. And to find them with the original finish and the neck numbers on them, like this one, the 693s came in 2 ways. They came with a mahogany finish and a burgundy finish. And the burgundy is my favorite. They're more rare, but when you see the neck numbers on the back of the neck and the original paint, and it's 100% of the burgundy paint on it, it's a real rare bird, and it's hard to find. Usually somebody with a sander, and unfortunately with a heavy hand, has already gotten to it and ruined it. Now there is, like I say, there's a few guys still alive today that do amazing work. This one I just bought from a guy in Canada, Rob Pierce. I wish he was on tonight. He should be. He's as nutty as I am. That's a 945 Iomatic. Well, this is This is what Jack Nicklaus won all his majors with. And this guy that refinishes this, he does the stampings so perfect, it's unbelievable. And he even signs it sort of like Picasso on the back, on the back of the neck. Vernon is, or no, Evans is his name, and I think he's from Canada. But anyhow, there's a few guys that still do this good work, and I'm telling you, they're going to be extinct one day, and you won't be able to have anybody touch these things with a sander. I'm pretty particular about that. But as I say, my favorite things are Tony Penna stuff. Tony Penna he created and designed all of the Tommy Armour McGregors and all that. Tony Penna was the man. So he may not have won everything on a tour. He won a few times or played very well, but he's the one that actually was the designer. Obviously Wilson Palmer's, and I also am fond of these things. This one's worth about $8,000. That's a Frank Sinatra Invitational 1963 putter. Only made that one year, and 150 of them exist. I would say 100 of them are in Japan. I really would. So there's very few of these. These are copper plated. That I've sold them as high as $21,000 in Japan in the heyday. So those are pretty fun. Now I give you a quickie that, and I'm going to give you, I'm going through some power pieces right now, but I'm also going to give you some fun things to collect that aren't too expensive, that everybody can find. And I'll tell you why you should be looking for them. The zebra ones, these ones are very, very rare. Okay. This zebra, if you notice the sole plate, we call this one the Peninsula sole plate. You see that little jet out of the sole plate? That's called the Peninsula sole plate. And you don't see Ram anywhere on that golf club. This was Dale Taylor and Dave Taylor in Carmel Valley, California. And this is a different color zebra. And if you notice on right here, it has an adjustable neck. It has an actual ball bearing down there. These, to me, I mean, I would pay $500 to $1,000 for every one of these I find. They're so hard to find. Zebras normally don't bring much money. They really don't. Well, the interesting thing here is, okay, this thing gets on tour, all right? And who wins with it first? Here's good old Gene the Machine, Gene Littler. And that is Gene in front of his Rolls Royce, which he collects, holding his zebra putter. And that's the zebra putter, gold plated, that he was awarded with by the Taylors. And I'm telling you that I had to drum this up from a collector that did his research. And when I saw this, I said, that is way cool. It was the 1975 Bing Crosby National Pro-Am. And so that's what started it off. That's the first year they made the zebras. Well, guess who wins the next year? Our good old Ray Floyd. And he wins what? The Masters in 76. And there's his gold putter. And I mean, that's just, when I found this, I already been collecting. I have a whole rack of zebra putters. I really do. I have a whole wall of zebra putters, and I have 3 of these Peninsula sole plates. And then I have the second best collectible, and you can find these on eBay occasionally. This is what we call the paragraph sole plates. Yeah, it's got a whole paragraph on it. And what the paragraph says is, first of all, the Ram company bought the thing from the Taylors. Ram bought the zebra, and so now all the zebras say Ram on them. But the USGA came in, did their famous move, and they said, no, the adjustable neck is non-conforming. And they went, ah. I've run into a few things like this, but not as bad as them when they're in the middle of marketing and they're winning on tour. So this paragraph sole plate says, this zebra is to be fitted by your PGA professional and not USGA legal until permanently fixed by Taylor Craft Incorporated. So here they are selling a putter they're telling you it's non-conforming until you permanently fix it to. I think that's pretty neat. And it is also an adjustable neck, a little different adjustable. This is the second year they did it. And then they went away from the adjustable neck completely because they just said, the heck with this. This is way too much trouble. But let me tell you something. I collected zebra putters before I collected anything. And I never liked the feel of them because they were pot metal. It was not a good feel. But this putter was the first putter that had a double bend face balance shaft. It had a sole plate that came off that had adjustable weights in it. The neck is adjustable. I mean, this whole thing is brilliant. It was way ahead of its time. And so, you know, it's funny when I hear people go, I've never seen the Peninsula sole plate before. I've never seen, or I've rarely ever seen this adjustable thing. And to me, I've been enamored by these well before I started making putters. And I've never sold a zebra putter ever. And I don't think I will, because I just think they were the first real cool. And I mean, I'm telling you, these people were ahead of Karsten Solheim in the same time. And that's saying something, because I have a lot of respect for the Solheims. I mean, you know, they're like the most brilliant that ever came down the pike. And these people were ahead of them with some technologies and some forward thinking. So anyhow, I would love to know who else won with the zebra. If you think about it, if you did a long list of, you know, Tom Watson, I mean, he won a good bit with the zebra. There was some great players that did this. Now, as you guys probably saw when I came to the last show, I think it was Columbus, Jim, and here is one of my all-time favorites. When I tell you what, I didn't get to own one of these for 30 years. I saw one that Richard Britton owned in California. And this is a G Sprague, an adjustable putter, the Hickory 1904. I saw this thing 35 years ago. And I said, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. The putter, if you turn the neck, it now rotates, and you can make this any lie, any loft. You can make it a croquet putter. I mean, and back then that was legal. You could putt with the croquet. So, and each time you spin this shaft and move it, it's still center of gravity balanced. This thing was so far ahead of its day. It was incredible. Well, I remember when I saw Richard Britton, I said, I would love to own that, Richard. He said, oh, no, you wouldn't. I said, why not? He said, because it's $5,500. And I said, oh, you're right. I don't want to own it. Well, if you grab, I had to wait forever. I bought one off eBay, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, that had some hack marks on it. That was, it was hurt, and I got it for a very good price. Yeah, this is it right here. Those little hack marks are not original, but it was my first one that I could buy. I've got 5 of them now, and I've stopped pretty much hunting for them. I bought 2 from a collector that, this is the one you've never seen. Okay, look at those lines. They're hacked this way, along this way. Those are all original. And this was the one that's stamped pending. So this is the very first one before the patent was issued. All the rest of them say G. Sprague patent 1904, after the fact, the patent, and they don't have these lines. They have the brick pattern or whatever. So anyhow, it was hilarious that it took me that long to finally find somebody that would sell me one halfway reasonable. I paid pretty good money for them recently, because as a designer, I had to have one of these putters. I mean, those to me, it was a guy in 1904 that nobody. I mean, I've never seen something more clever in a putter design anywhere around that era than that. So the Hickory, you know, I think it was a man, it was named Davis. That was the man that put the patent on it and created it. And then G. Sprague, I think, was the Boston outfit that was the marketing and the distributor. But anyhow, the bag back here, let me see if you can see this. Yeah, I think, oh yeah, there you go. This little bag, as you see, it's about a 1950 Mcgregor bag with the slots in it. It's just so perfect canvas. So I've loaded it up with, in period, the best of the best of the best. And it's got a set of 945 turning 1953s iron or woods that have neck numbers. It's got a set of Tony Penna VIP TP64s on them. And then also has a 58 Dyna-powered sand wedge. And we're going to go into sand wedges in just a minute. But the sand wedge, to me, I went crazy with those for a long, long time. As you see, let me see, you can, yeah, you can see, can you see? I mean, I've got a whole lot of sand wedges, and they range from, I think the oldest one I have is a Hagen in the 20s. And then, yeah, we'll touch on that left-handed one. I got the lefty, believe I don't collect left-handed stuff as a rule. This is an exception to the rule. But sand wedges, the creme de la creme that you hear about is the 1958 Dyna-powered sand wedge with the fluid feel on the neck with the arrow. Okay, it's the one that Tom Watson chipped in on Nicklaus at the 82 Pebble Beach US Open with. Every tour player was already using that wedge, but when Watson did that with that wedge, and then it came to be known it was that wedge that he did it with, the thing went through the roof. I mean, went really crazy. And I owned quite a number of those. I actually have built it back up. I think I've got 5 or 6 of them now, which are really hard to find. These things, here we go. These are probably my favorite. I can even show you one that I traded for off of a tour player of all things. And I'll tell you why I did. If you see, there we go. That's it, right? There you are. This is not only a 1958 Dynapowered with the fluid feel and the arrow, but see the STP number on it? The special department grind number is someone, probably a tour player or very good player, ordered from Wilson's special department to grind, to specially grind it a particular way and make it custom for them. Whenever you find an STP number, buy it. I mean, if it's an older one, it's usually a very special wedge. And this one, what's interesting is, you know, the sand wedge is all gone from the sole, just about. Well, with new technology now, we can sand this off and re-laser in sand wedge. There's actually guys that have computer lasers, and you could put the grooves back in. So you can restore one without having to refinish it and still make it playable again. Pretty neat. Now, I'll go right into that crazy wedge we found today. I was real lucky. I got a call about 6 days ago. A friend of mine's calling me, and he had sent me pictures of this wedge. And it's a brown shafted wedge. It's an old wedge from the, I think it's late 20s, early 30s. And he sends me pictures, and he says, I want you to look at this pictures and tell me what you think. And I looked at it and I said, okay, it's a dot punched. It's an old wedge, left-handed of all things, which to me is not quite worthless, but not worth a lot. And it's a Billy Burke blaster, it's called. Well, the thing that separated this from everything else.
Yeah. It says
Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth. All right. So now I have no paperwork on it. Now I got to go to work. You got to go do your homework. Pulled up all kinds of internet pictures of Babe Ruth swinging golf clubs. The 2 things I needed to see was he using brown shafted clubs. The next thing is there any way I could tell they were Billy Burke's? So one of the more recent pictures I found was Babe Ruth playing with Billy Burke, walking down the fairway, playing with him. I'm thinking, uh-oh. And then he shows a whole picture of him with his golf clubs spread out in front of him, and they're all brown shafts, and you could see the sand wedge in there. And I'm going, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I bought it. I paid pretty good money. I didn't pay too much crazy money for it, but I've never owned anything that Babe Ruth has actually owned and used and was made for him. And you know, there's no question this is his sand wedge, because it just smells right. So that's exciting to me. I mean, quite a bit. But anyhow, let me show you something else. There's some guys that I deal with. Now I'm a particular about sand wedges, the way they look, the grind, the low heel, the big tall toe, the rounded toe, the way the flanges is softened and rounded. Well, the 58 Dynapowered sand wedge that I mentioned to you is usually got that beautiful shape. It's just got a fabulous shape. Here's the one I have in this bag here is absolutely a perfect one. You can sort of see the rounded shape here. It's just absolutely fabulous. And the lower heel, this one's got the 58 Dynapower was you can see it. It's denoted by the sandblast lines in the face that are original with red paint. And this one, in this condition, which is hardly used at all, it's worth about anywhere from $800 to $1,000. So, yeah, and if anybody wants to test me that, send me one, I'll buy it. Now here's a fun project. You ready? You can buy these sand wedges out there. Here's one. It's a store line. That's an Arnold Palmer. It's got the Arnold Palmer signature, like the expensive putter. So you can buy these things for $15 or $30 if you get lucky. And I went and bought 5 of them real quick before I had this conversation with everybody. and I'll tell you, here's what is so much fun. Now I got a store line one, doesn't have the signature because I didn't want to use my best signature ones on a sort of trial and error. But I have a friend out there on the internet, and he's already too busy, so I'll mention his name because everybody's going to call him. His name is Ken Flanagan. Well, Flanagan makes putters, but he's more into, he does a great job of making putters, by the way. I've seen his putters are great. But he's a real craftsman. I mean, he grinds wedges. He does all kinds of stuff. Well, so I sent him this wedge, which looked like this store line at first. It said autograph all over it. And as you see, I had him weld in certain things and then regrind this whole, the whole, like my 58 Dynapowered. I sent him a Dynapowered 58. I said, regrind this thing to look like that. And look, he even put the sandblast lines on it. I'm going to play with this club. Now I'm going to be the only one that has a Dynapowered type, and he even drilled a black button in the bottom and made it like, it's unbelievable. So to me, that's now a cool collector's item. And it's a usable golf club. And it started with $15. And that's pretty fun. So they're out there, but you have to send it to a guy that really knows what he's doing with grinding. And so I'm going to do a few more with them with the Arnold Palmer signature. And I'm going to actually put my grind number on it, which will have my own, sort of like my own special department grind number. This is just Jim, this is a rainy day fun project. This is not a get rich scheme because I actually have over $200 in the work that he did, but it's well worth it to me because it's just so much fun. All right, so a couple of these. This one here is and I'm going to be bringing these to the show up at Latrobe to walk through some of these. This is a 59 Dynapowered, and it's called the Bomber. It's actually a bigger flange, a very, very heavy head. And this is like in mint condition. I mean, this thing, look at this, 1959, like never used it. The original band and the grip, look, he's even got the reminder grip and everything. It's like beautiful. So these say, and this is, I mean, it's a very heavy club. It's easy to get out of the bunker with. I've hit some of these that not this condition, but in that kind of weight, super easy to hit. The another one that's a real sleeper, two sleepers here. Okay, there we go. Is now I am a Wilson staff nut. I mean, you can tell from the kind of clubs I have. I have 69 Dynapower staffs. I have some 56 Dynapowers, but here's the ones that are harder to find, and that's I think you can see that. Hang on. There we go. You see that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a Walter Hagen ultra powered, which Hagen was under the same roof as Wilson staff in the 50s. So apparently Hagen was the Rolls Royce priced set. And to find a sand wedge, hang on a second here. I've got one. I'll tell you what, if anybody's got one of those, let me know, because they are so hard to find. It's unbelievable. It's a 56 Walter Hagen ultra powered, and there it is. There we go. I bought a whole set of these, and it's just like the Dynapowered staff with the black button on the bottom and all, but it's a Walter Hagen. These are as rare as hen's teeth. I mean, I saw one of these when I was 15 or 16 years old at Pasadena, and there was a really close friend of mine. He was a mini tour player named Nate Starks, and Nate had an Armour 3852 putter in his bag, and they said he could get up and down from a ball washer. I mean, he was the best short game player in the whole county, and he won mini tour events. He used to beat Dick Mast sometimes as well. And this is the sand wedge he had. And this is the only other sand wedge I've ever found besides the one that I saw in his bag. That's how hard they are to come by. And I don't know why that is. I maybe Andy Bean bought them all back in the 80s. I don't know. But this is really a good find. I found, just to let you know, Facebook does work sometimes, Facebook Marketplace or whatever. I found a guy that showed the 4-iron online, and he was in Scotland. And I said, do you have the sand wedge to that set? And he said, sure. I said, well, I'll buy the whole set. So I bought the whole set for $200 from Scotland. It was unreal. And it doesn't surprise me that there's some left over there, but over here, they've been scoured and bought a long time ago. Now, here's another one. Another 50, yeah, it's a 58. It's a 58 Hagen. I had refinished this and I played with this for a while. I put a steel fiber shaft in it. But these are really great feeling golf clubs. Now, as for, let me grab a couple of real interesting pieces. This one here, of course, you guys have seen this, the Per Wit. The Per Wit is something that I think is special because it has the rounded face. All right. Well, there's a number of them that have rounded faces, as you've seen the Smoothie. Okay. They're not very expensive and they're fun to collect. Here's another one, a rounded face one called the Fernquist and Johnson Compensator. It's a pretty cool piece because they roll the ball really well. And the technology in our putter is along the lines of those radial faces, except we've perfected the geometry. We've taken the radial face and subtilized it, and we raised the center of the radius above the equator of the ball to hit the top half of the golf ball, not the bottom half of the golf ball. So I learned from the old stuff to create better new stuff, which is really neat. Now, as I mentioned, I won the national Hickory Championship 2 years in a row. Well, the HB putter, which is the Hickory HB, all right. Yep. Famous, very good, very hard to find now. All the collectors have scooped them up. This putter was really good. The one thing I didn't like was the flange was too small. So believe it or not, before I ever made putters, I took my HB and I welded on an extra flange. I welded on at least a quarter, maybe more than a quarter inch of an extra flange. This is the one that I won the national championship with. It was an old Wright and Ditson HB. And look, it's a different shape. It's a bigger, heavier head. It made it heavier. It made it look better to me, and it made it putt better. And so, I mean, I wouldn't do that to every one of them. I just did it to one. I probably owned 15 of them over my time. But, and here's another one that you won't see. This here, now here's a plug for the Golf Collector Society, which now is the Golf Heritage Society. That little sticker on this little wonderful gem, I bought at one of the shows 30 years ago. And on the back of this little wryneck that you see is a very popular, it looks like a Calamity, but it's not. From the neck markings, this thing's about 1890. And this says DJ Ross on it. It's Donald J. Ross. This is Donald Ross's putter from 1890. And I bought it for $185 30 years ago at a Golf Collector Society meeting. I knew when I saw it, I said, I can't believe this. I got to buy this because I love Donald Ross golf courses and it all ties in. So, I mean, you can't ever tell what you're going to find at one of our meetings. And that's what's so exciting. And what's funny is I don't have to go there and buy everything or buy, if just find that one gem that I can bring home with me is just all well and worth it. Now, of course, I have a whole set of these things that I played with. Hang on one sec. This is one of the 7-irons that I played with in 90 when I won. And what's neat is you're allowed to play with clubs that were legal then, not legal now. And of course, you see from these grooves, I could chew the ball, and I mean really stop the ball on the green. Most of my set have deep grooves, and I really love them. They play well. Of course, I've put fatter grips on it, the suede grips, and did what I could to extend some of them and all. Made a good set, really play well. And when I stopped playing, of course, Randy Jensen went and got an HB because he believed that that was the secret, the HB. And then he won how many, Jim? He won 16 out of 19 or something.
He won many.
Oh my gosh, he won all of them, it seemed like. And he really worked on his game. He really, I mean, I would have had a real hard time competing with him if I kept playing against him. So fortunately, I caught him off guard 2 years in a row and got on the trophy. So
why don't you go ahead, and do you have a couple more things to say? Because we want to allow time for people to ask questions. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. I just got one more. Hang on.
Go ahead.
Couple more things that I like to collect. Now, see, here's another one. I think these are most underrated and underpriced. And I always like to bring these up when you can find something that's collectible and really something going back to the other century. This is a Willie Park patent. You can see Willie Park on there. It says W Park. This is special, and it says patent all of them. Well, I sent this back to Jeremy over at Louisville Golf, and he straightened the shaft for me and refinished the shaft and put a nice, beautiful grip on it. So now it's actually, but he kept the head pretty original. I mean, that was the way I found it. And to me, a Willie Park Rhineck from 1885, 1890, I mean, that's amazing. And you can buy these things for $150, $250. That's, to me, that's a part of history. If you just do your research on the Park brothers, or the Park family, they hold so many championships. It's like the Harmon crew today, just with how popular they were. And this is another one I bought at the society meeting. And again, deep grooves, the sideways deep grooves. It's really cool. They used to use these like those waterfalls for trick shots. Or actually, they would use them for specialty shots. That really, I think, is really interesting. Now, one more thing before I take the questions, and that's this is some of my, this has something to do with when I first started making putters. All right,
I've got one of those.
Okay, well, you may have one. If it says Spalding Touring Pro Model on the bottom, you have one. If it says designed by TP Mills Spalding, you don't have this one. And this is not too, I mean, you can go online and buy these, but let me tell you what you're looking at is this here is a forging. It's a forged steel. It's not cast. The one that came after this was, this is designed by TP Mills, and it was a production putter as well. This was production. And the one that designed by it says is a cast steel. It's not nearly the same animal as this. Well, I've got a whole collection of these. And what I do is, and I'll take the plastic off this one because I've got to share this with you. What I do is send them off to my gunsmith. Oh my gosh, that's totally high polished and gun blued. And it's just absolutely, it's like a handmade. Now, TP Mills used to have handmade putters going for the thousands of dollars because the tour players were winning with it and all. But these shafts were very, very skinny. They were 281, 281 tip, not 370 like today. This is 281. This is what they called the pencil tip shaft. And if you go all the way under the grip in the back end, it's not a 580 butt, it's a 500 butt. So between 500 being small and 281 being small, it really has so much feel in the putter. It's tremendous. So you've got quality forging steel, a great shaft. The leather grips that you find on them are one-piece slip-ons, and they have that little indentation here. It's fantastic collectible, and you get the whole set. I'm going to have, the next time you see me on Zoom, I'm going to have a whole setup on the wall that are all refinished, beautiful to look like a gun-blued, handmade, and they're not much money. You can find it for $20 to $40. I mean, what a great collectible. And really, I call them, there's one of the sleepers in the business, between the zebras and the TP Mills. But anyhow, I have a lot more stuff, so I'll come on some other time. I'll start taking questions.
Yeah. So, I don't know about anybody else, but my head is absolutely spinning right now with everything you've shared with us. It's been fantastic. We have our first question. What about the Sandy Andy with an aluminum shaft? What can you tell us about that?
The Sandy Andy. Okay, the Sandy Andy was it's obviously a Wilson. They wouldn't really call it a staff model, but it was made alongside of the staffs. Has a really big flange. I used to play one when I was 12 because they were new and they were easy to get out of the bunker. I mean, it was like the big, huge, fat soul type, forgiving, easy out type club. They're great golf clubs. Sandy Andes, the R90s, even the new remake R90s from the late 70s, early 80s. Great golf clubs. Again, that's Wilson at work. I've got even the X31s. They have that big flange. So that golf club was designed for the big flange, for easy out. All you had to do was swing hard behind it, and it's coming out. So it's a great golf club. And the aluminum shaft, by the way, don't ever sell the aluminum shaft short. My whole set of staffs that I got to the U.S. Open with, U.S. Amateur with, were 69 bullet back staffs with aluminum shafts. I reshafted those, but those were the heavier heads, so they worked better on the reshaft with the S300s or whatever. So don't ever poo-poo the aluminum shafts. They're a great collectible as they are.
Excellent. Another question. Anybody else?
Hey, Bobby, this is Mike Block. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
No problem.
Great to see you and hear your voice. You're a legend. I met you in the summer of 1983 at Pasadena. I had my eyes on the Hague Ultras that were the Crenshaw grind.
Yep.
And I couldn't afford them. I just graduated from high school. And you lived on Mockingbird Lane. And you
That's
said,
right.
Come over here. And you sold me a set of 1971 Wilson staffs.
Yep.
Button backs that I adore and played with for years. I
Yep.
can't hit them very well now, but I still have them. My question for you tonight is going back about 29 years ago, so 1992, you were making some handmaids for tour players, and they were blue.
Yep.
Similar to what you just showed with the TP Mills. They had that blue finish on them. What was the material that you used to make those handmaids?
Okay, what was the material I made those handmaids with?
Yeah. So 92, you made them for like Langer and Faldo and Dennis Watson and
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
yeah.
Those were made. I remember the machine shop that helped me make the first ones. That we made the heads, the hosels separately. I would take the heads. They were made out of 1018 carbon steel. They were cold rolled carbon steel, so it was just like a gun blue type handmade of TP Mills. So what I did, I looked up to TP Mills. I looked up to Tad Moore, and when I was first on tour, I never heard of Scott Cameron. He just came on the scene, and I did my research then later and found out he was behind the scene at Ray Cook for a few years already designing stuff. So he was probably 4 years ahead of me as in experience. But I looked at TP Mills because TP Mills did things with such beauty. I mean, he took the high polish to another level.
Yeah.
And he did it with carbon steel, and he did forgings, and he hand ground a lot of things. That's what I did with those. The first putters that I had were TS Grace marked. They were stamped TS Grace. So like the TP Mills, I didn't want to put my whole name on them. I wasn't known yet. You know, this was 92. I was on the tour with a temporary badge for only 6 months when I was making those putters. And yeah, I got orders from Dennis Watson. I got orders from Mark O'Mara, Bob Tway. I'll never forget those first orders. And so what I did was I made a really tall neck, like face balanced neck of like an Answer 5 type, you know, a 5-inch hosel. And we face balanced them. We had to, the hardest thing to do was when somebody gave you an order, like Mark O'Mara says, okay, I want 35 inches and I want it with this hosel and this toe hang, and I want it with I want it to be D2. Well, that means there's no adjustable weights here.
Yeah.
You got to bring this thing all the way down to the gram, and you got to know exactly what grams to hit, and you got to hit it. And if you're light, you go out there with a light putter, they'll throw it back at you. And heavy, you know, sometimes they'll throw it back at you then. So I'll never forget that, because that was, those were fun days, because what I was doing was selling those. I was making in my garage by myself, finishing these putters off for the guys on the tour. I was making 20 putters a month. 10 of them went to Japan for $400 a piece to pay my light bill and feed me, and then give me a little bit of money to get back out on the tour every 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I couldn't go every week, couldn't afford it. And so I would give away the other 10 on the tour.
Yeah.
And then get more orders and go back home and make 20 more the next month. And before you know it, you know, the Japanese are ordering, because they see you on the Darrell survey and they're in play. And so the plan was working, and it was exciting. I had no idea Nick Price would come along in '94 and do what he did. You know, I was just making a living. I mean, and I was doing what I loved, but I had no possible expectation of taking it to the moon, you know, at all.
Yeah, those were beautiful putters. You still have some?
Yeah, I have a few in my collection, but mostly I have a couple of collectors that I know, you know, have 50, 60, and 70 of them. And they have way more than I've ever had in one time. And, you know, they're I guess they're worth something. I mean, I don't obviously deal much in the older stuff of mine. I don't keep my stuff as much as I respect some of the other stuff, you know. Yeah, I guess that's normal. You know, I love the other guys' stuff, the Palmers and the TP Mill stuff, and just all the cool stuff.
Another question. Buzz, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So Bobby, this is coming from a novice, but you talked about the Blue Goose putter in the beginning, and there's some Odie Chrisman putters that look very similar from the same era. Can you describe the difference in what Odie Chrisman did and what the Blue Goose is?
Yes, that's a great question. And most people think that Odie Chrisman is back almost as old as the Goose putters, but no. Odie Chrisman was, he was making putters in 1950, 55, but the Tracy Parks putters were made in the actually probably 1943, no, 44, all the way to about 52. And so they were really before the, let me see, you saw the Stam Thompsons, you saw the ones that were before the Chrismans, but had that look, had that bigger neck and had that look, and here's another one. This is a goose that's got a hickory of all things, but it's not old like hickory in our era, you know, of the 1920s. But this is probably late 40s, early 50s, and it says Blue Goose on the back. It's a real deep face. It's a different one. This is really the only one I have that's deep face like this. But I tell you, these people were really on tour doing some weird things. Look at this one I found in Hawaii when I was in Honolulu. That's a Blue Goose. That doesn't look like anything. Matter of fact, it was so ugly, I left it in the store. I didn't even try to buy it. And I went home and I said, what am I doing? I can't believe it. I called up my friend Keith Tanaka. You know, Tanaka is over in Honolulu. I said, Keith, you still got it? He says, yeah. I said, but please send that to me. And I almost lost this thing. I think this is one of the coolest, ugliest putters you'll ever see. And I mean, it's just, to me, and on the bottom it says, Blue Goose, big number 8, whatever that's called, TS Parks, Houston. And it's a TS Park. So yeah, that's a good question. Odie Chrisman, fantastic putter maker for many years. And that's another one I wish somebody would tally up how many wins. I mean, it's got to be good. It's got to be a lot. When I first was growing up, 15, 16, 17, and I played a lot of golf with Dick Mast. Dick Mast obviously had his tour card 5 times. He knew how to get his card. He didn't know how to keep his card. It was hard to do. But I saw Dick Mast shoot 63s, and I mean multiple 63s with his Odie Chrisman upright hickory shafted putter. He made it look like a magic wand. I mean, it was unreal. So I have a lot of respect for Odie Chrisman stuff. They never became worth much money. I don't know why. I used to collect the Selma, Alabama ones because that was the first ones. But, eventually, if something goes zero up at all, and you could buy them still for $20, what I end up doing is going to a golf shop that doesn't have enough clubs and giving them to them because I don't have enough room for stuff like that. But they were really underrated. They're most underrated. So are the bullseyes. I mean, the bullseyes. I had 30 of the pre-acoustic John Ruters.
Yeah.
I gave all those away too, but they're great. I think I kept one. I kept one STD M5S, the standard one, the bright brass one, the one that Johnny Miller won at Oakmont with, when he shot 63 on Sunday, which was, so I've got.
You just talked about the 2 putters I use, but nonetheless, I wanted to give away.
That's all right.
This is I've used one of yours here too, Bobby. It's great. I love.
Oh
this.
yeah, hey, that one that has a good story.
Let's hear it. That's great.
Yeah, well, let me see the face. The face of it. What color is the face? Is it white? Oh, is it solid?
No, it's not. It's not white. No, it's just the same brass.
Okay, what that is? That's a beryllium copper 2200. So that one, we made that putter in many different ways. It's really cool. Of course, we had Nick Price on board at the time, and he was winning with the Fat Lady putter. And we sold $6.5 million of putters the first year out because of Nick. All right. They came to me and they said, look, you're gonna pay him from now on because, if not, the managers, you know how that is. We're gonna have him go switch back to the Ram. I said, yeah, right. Yeah, he's winning everything. You're going to make him switch putters. But I said, so how much do you want? They said, well, we want a 5-year deal, and we want you to pay him $500,000 a year. Well, I just made $6.5 million. I go, all right, I'll do better than that. I said, we'll pay him $500,000 a year for the first 2 years, and then years 3, 4, and 5 because they wanted a 5-year deal. And he's not going to be number 1 in the world for 5 years. I know that. He's going to be number 1 in the world for 2 years. And that's exactly what he was. For 18 months, he was number 1 in the world. I said, in years 3, 4, and 5, you can have 6% of the gross of my company. Because if he's in the toilet, so is your check. and it worked out perfectly because as we cooled down a little bit, Fortune Brands came and bought us quickly. We did very well going to Cobra Golf. But to get back onto that 2200, that was one of the putters we made for Nick when he wanted to switch around. And we blended the Arnold Palmer with a Wilson Arnold Palmer head and the George Lowe Wizard 600 Sportsman. We blended those 2 looks into that 2200. So the 2200 doesn't look like a Palmer only, and it doesn't look like a Sportsman only. It's got its own look. That's the blend of both of them. It's really cool. And we did it out of carbon steel first, gun blued and all that. Matter of fact, I wish I kept the forging tool on that. We made a forging tool that's different from the investment cast tool of that beryllium copper version. We made a forging tool just for the tour boys. And we only ran 1,000 of those heads with the blanks of and it was 400 grams. The head was in a forging. So we slammed the forging. We get the head that was 400 grams. We put it up on our milling machines and we'd start whittling them away until we got to where we wanted to. So Mahaffey won with one of those forging ones. So that 2200 is a brilliant putter. It's we won. Let's see, MCI with Nick Price with that putter. He won back-to-back $1 million challenges in South Africa when nobody was playing for $1 million back in those days. And so that putter is really great. And we did make some out of beryllium nickel. And of course, the forging ones that were only for the tour guys. So it's really neat.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Well, I was saying nice things about you for a while with that putter, Bobby,
Great. Well, that putter also, to let you know, Buzz, that putter also has a white inlay HSM insert. And when we went with Cobra, we kept that putter on and it had the gold HSM insert, which they feel really good. But if you're a metal guy, you like the metal one. If you're a polymer guy, you like the polymer one. So it depends on what your feel is.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Any other questions? We have a question here. What about the amount of time that Palmer was trying white-headed putters? And what's the story with the white-headed putter?
Oh, the white-headed, like the painted white?
Painted white.
That's interesting. I can tell you what I know about it. It's interesting that white was a popular thing in a particular era of, and I'm going to guess it, but I can pinpoint why I say this, because I know in '68, George Archer won the Masters with a sprayed white answer. Okay. So, and then of course, go back to '61 and Nicholas, oh, where's my book? I have a book here in the shop somewhere that says The White Fang and the Golden Bear. It's the new book out. And that is the story of the White Fang, that it was basically it was a bullseye type putter that Nicholas putted with, and it was sprayed white. So Palmer, I have pictures in my archives of Palmer making his own 3852 armor. And this is a great story, by the way. Okay, so here is, all right. Here is what, oh, no, let me get an offset. Oh, I don't, here we are. And, oh yeah, I really got to show you this. Yeah, here's one. This is one that's got, look at this. Look at the name on this one. Claude Harmon at Wingfoot. Instead of it being a Tommy Armour, it's Claude it's Butch's dad when he was at Wingfoot. And by the way, I've got the one in my safe that he won the 48 Masters with.
Really?
Yep. That's pretty darn cool. So here's the thing. Palmer was grabbing these armor putters, and they didn't have a big enough flange, just like my welding on of the flange of my HB putter, and to give it size and to give it weight. These were too light as the years went on. And what Arnold Palmer did was weld on a big old flange. That's where I got that whole idea for my HB, because I saw one of Arnold's, Frankenstein creations that he welded on the whole thing, and it's very ugly. And one of them went through an auction, I think in 2005 or 7 or something like that, for $6,500, and that was cheap because it was one of Arnold's creations. So what did I do? I took a 3850, that's a 3752 Lassie. That's a ladies putter, which was a little bit bigger than normal. And I welded on a really big, I mean, that's a big flange. That thing is big. It looks like it looks like that 2200. And if you look, yeah, see all that weld? Look at that. Now this thing has really got a heavy head and a big fat flange. It's a great putter. And of course I put in another green shaft from an iron and put on my leather grip with the name on it and all. So when I'm done with one of these, I have about 8 or 9 hours in them, and I sell them for $875. So it's not like I'm making a lot of money with all those hours in it. But the white putters were very, very popular. Not only did Palmer spray his white that he was putting with for a while, but Archer won the Masters with it. Nicholas won with the Fang. And there was a craze where a lot of people went with white for a while. Why, I don't know. I don't think it looks that great. When they came out with all the white drivers and all, I said, oh, whatever. Tony Penna did. If you look back in the books, in your Funk and Wagnalls, which guys, you should all have these. Tony Penna in 1950, let me see, something like that, 50, 52, 53. He did the WW Specials Iomatic Whitewoods. And they're stamped WW Special, and they're Tony Penna TP Specials pretty much. They were done in a beautiful white finish. Well, if that was such a wonderful optically important, effective thing, why was it only done by special order and not put on the line? If it's a good seller, you put the darn thing on the line and sell a lot of them. I think it was just fancy and different. So right. I was never really a big fan. I never really played with the white driver set when they came back out, and I knew it was going to be short-lived, and it was. I think they're nothing special, big deal. By the way, there's another great one, Joe Clement's book. What I'd like to do, anybody feel like the calisthenics of doing the writing? Because I can come up with all the pictures and do the dictation. But somebody needs to put a Classic Club book together entirely of good stuff. This is really great from this day, but it has lacking a lot of stuff, and it's black and white pictures mostly, and I'd like to do that with someone if anybody's interested in that. So anyhow, I think it would be fun, because you know what, it's needed for the new collectors of today. The guys that are today, they don't know anything. They're searching for a lot of things. And if you could give them a pretty good basis of good stuff, and even like the TP Mills thing, I mean, that's a great collectible, and it's fun because it's not expensive. You got to have those.
So I think we're probably toward the end, because I know we could go on for another hour. There's
Oh yeah.
lots of other names. One name we haven't even mentioned at all, which I'm sure you could talk about, is Ben Hogan stuff.
Yep.
There's a guy in Denmark right now who's buying sets of clubs. And in fact, he bought a set from the couple that's on right now, refinishing them and selling them for almost $6,000. So, so there's, if you find the right thing and you do the right thing with it, you're gonna have fun with it. So,
Well, and you know, the thing I really like is when you go back and you buy the old photos, like these wire photos, you know, that you find.
right.
And here's three greats right in a row. You've got now who can tell me who the middle guy is? Ready? I'll give you the other guys. The other guys on the left, that's Claude Harmon, and the one on the right is Herman Baron, who was the first Jewish tour player to win a tournament. Okay.
Denny Shoot.
Who's the guy in the middle?
Denny Shoot.
Nope. Good guess, but nope. This is really good.
Who is
I'll
it?
give you a clue. And if you know your history, you're going to jump all over this one. This is the only guy that's played at Wimbledon, and he won Wimbledon. And he's also, I mean, a tennis player, and he's also played in the Masters. So he was a tennis champion and a golf champion at the same time.
Ellsworth Vines.
That's him.
Oh,
Attaboy.
wow,
Attaboy. That's good. Ellsworth Vines. That's right. And that's probably the most unusual combination, where the guys are the best in the world at tennis and golf. I mean, he was top 10 in the world at golf, and he's the top of the game in tennis. He dominated tennis so much, he quit tennis, went and tried to completely dominate golf. And obviously he met his match with golf. Hang on, I got another picture. Just a second. Hang on. This is really good. This is one of my favorites. And this is three really classics. You got Tony Penna, you got Tommy Armour in the middle, and you got Tony Penna's brother, Charlie Penna, on the right. And so the three of them are, Tommy Armour was like Tiger Woods, but I mean, he sold more golf clubs with his name on everything than anybody ever. And one of the things I love to collect is these Armour putters. I mean, look at it. I've got one with Charlie Penna on it instead of Tommy Armour, Herman Baron, Claude Harmon. And I mean, you could find some really wild ones. And I found one recently that had Joe Moselle on it. I mean, who's Joe Moselle? Well, Joe Moselle apparently is a very good player from California, obviously a PGA professional. But Mcgregor did a lot of custom stuff, and that's fun to find. It really is. I'm constantly hunting for stuff like that, and really, really enjoy it.
All right, so we have some more questions. Does a Bing Crosby Mcgregor driver have any value? And the second one is, who made the Coot? COOT.
Okay, so which was the first question?
Bing Crosby McGregor driver.
Oh yeah, if it's a Bing Crosby, I'd have to see the picture of it. But yes, if it's a Bing Crosby McGregor driver, most likely it was made for Bing Crosby. And if it's got his signature stamped in the crown, and if it's a tourney, if it's an oil hardened tourney, I'd have to see the year. The year makes a lot of difference. But no, if it's for instance, I've got a line on Bob Hope's wife's set of Tony Penna VIP TP64s. It says Dolores Hope on it. I mean, to me, that's crazy fun, because they took Tony Penna's name off and stamped his wife's name in it. And I go, wow. But it's a set of TP64s. So no, Bing Crosby, that could be a very valuable driver. I would say most likely it is. I'd love to see pictures of it, and I could tell them. But what was the second question?
Who made the Coot? COOT.
I don't know that one.
Okay.
No, I mean, is it a driver? Or is it a?
This is came in on the message board.
And I've seen, everybody says that's been in this business forever that they've seen everything. Nobody's seen everything. As you know, when we go to our society meetings, you always see something you've
New.
never seen. And that's the
Right.
fun of it. I
Right.
know there's a collection up here in Wade Hampton that's over in Cashers. And I can't tell you the gentleman's name because it's private, but he's got like Gary Wyron's, the walls pull out and all the hickory. I mean, he's got a world-class collection. I can't wait to get in that door. I've got a friend getting me in. So I just want to look. I don't have to buy. I just want to go fondle it. It's going to be fun because I'm going to see plenty in that collection I've never seen before.
So he wrote back, a coot is a bamboo driver.
Oh, a bamboo driver.
A bamboo driver.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know who made it. Gosh, there's a couple of guys I know that would know because the bamboo shafts really is what he means. I don't think he means the driver head.
Right.
It's usually the
I think he
shaft.
does mean head.
Yeah. Because
Remember those.
the end of the butt cap, you could see that it's pieced together bamboo. And so that's how you tell the bamboo shaft for sure. It's got that funny look, yes, but you can have a sheathing on a shaft to look that way too. But yeah, usually it's not the whole head that's bamboo.
Okay.
But I don't know who made it. The bamboo stuff never really interested me that much. It was just a personal thing. I mean, I'm sure they're cool, but no, I don't know that one.
Got it.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
On the Tommy Armour Iron Master McGregor putters.
Yep.
What is the double X on the hosel signify?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's easy. Yeah, I've got one over here I could show you. I've got an IMGL that's got the IMG5 head with the double row of X's around the neck. The neck markings all the time, and you'll have like this one here is this is a 3852 from the 40s, and it's got those little vertical lines. That it does denote how those are marked, what decade they're made. And so as McGregor went from the vertical lines, and they went into the 50s, you saw the three rings around the neck of the armor putters. So the three rings came in, and then in the early 60s, then the double row X's. It was just their way of denoting those decades of designs. They were obviously a whole new line, and some of them different shapes, obviously, but the double row of X's was, let me think, from 1960, I think 3 through 68, right about that. But the reason why that one became so famous is Jumbo Ozaki in Japan became #1 all over Japan. He was like a god over there, and he putted with our Tommy Armour McGregor IMG5 head with the double row of X's around neck. All of a sudden, that putter went from what I saw was $50 to $150, and all of a sudden it went to I couldn't keep track of how fast it went up. I mean, I was buying and selling them. I was buying and selling, I would say, a dozen of those a month. And that some people had a hard time finding them at all. Well, I had everybody looking for them, and I would pay ahead. If I was paying $600-800 for them, sending them to Japan for $2,500. And then when I finally flew to Japan and walked around the boutique golf shops in Tokyo, they had price tags on them of $7,500. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I thought I was doing good, and here we are, 3 times as much. Well, it was amazing. So yeah, the neck markings are big, and I pay attention to neck markings on all the stuff. It's just like that Babe Ruth wedge I just got in. That thing, I'm going to find everything I can to know about that club, and it's going to be a fun thing. I'll bring it to the show because I don't think anybody's ever seen one of these.
No.
Well,
No, I'm sure you watched the tournament, the FedEx Cup.
Yes.
And you saw Cantlay and his putting exhibition, I guess you want to call it. Do you know anything about his putter and his technique, and what can you tell us there?
Well, let me think. It's either an Odyssey or Cameron putter. It's a Fang putter. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, his technique is Houdini. I mean, he makes everything. I mean, So I think it's a Cameron putter, and it's I should know the name of the model of it. It has the wings that go back. I have one like that in my line, and they're very effective. They're a great design. Everybody has to have those in their line. That design, what we call the Fang, and matter of fact, I've got a larger one, the bigger one that's very forgiving. I'm making a smaller one now. I always make the bigger one first and then come back to the smaller one later. But no, Cantlay is unflappable. It's just unbelievable how solid. See, when I teach putting, I teach shoulders and no hands. Okay, so if I'm playing golf with you, Jim, and you putt pretty well. That's why I left you alone that day. We just all but had fun. No, really. Matter of fact, most of us putted well in that group we played in, and we had a lot of fun. But see, most of the people come in from my studio for fittings. I tell them, look, you're going to get a free fitting because I make the putters. That's where I make my money, and you're going to get a free lesson. And 19 out of 20 that come in are going to get this lesson because everybody does this same move a little bit too much. And what it is the right hand is hitting the putt at the bottom a little bit too much, which puts the shoulders to sleep. And if you know the tour players, how they actually putt, they putt with all their shoulders and no hands. And that's why they do the claw and all these different ways to take the hands out completely. So if you hit it with your hands at all, and you go to 30 feet, you're going to hit it with your hands a little bit more, and you're going to use your shoulders less. And that's what Cantlay's doing. He's using all shoulders and no hands, and he's mastered it. And the larger muscles of the shoulders putt the ball straight. And if the hands are involved at all, that's where you have great days and bad days because you're going to be hot or cold because
Right.
you're a handsy player. My dad was that. My dad putted like this, and he either ran the table on you all the time or he made nothing. Yep.
Wait, we can't hear you, James.
The Babe Ruth Club a power bill.
Was the Babe Ruth Club a power bill, Bobby?
No, is it a power belt, he says?
Yes.
No, it's a Billy Burke. It's
Okay.
it's a and I, this is all new territory for me with the Ruth. Now I'm going to have to be a student of this because I'm going to have to research everything I can. The first thing, Jim, I'm going to have to do is find out, did Ruth have an endorsement with the Burke company? Now, we already found him walking down the fairway playing with Billy Burke, and here's a Billy Burke with Babe Ruth. Probably yes, but this is a probably. So this thing says Billy Burke, which is interesting because normally it doesn't say Billy Burke. It usually says Burke whatever. And this is Billy Burke recorded, and it says something in front of Blaster. And it has a dot punched face like an R20, and it has the shape. It's heavy. And it's longer than normal with the original grip. So Ruth was a big man.
Correct.
And so all this smells like it's Ruth's completely. And it's going to be fun. I'll show it around the convention. My buddy in St. Pete or Clearwater, he wants to put this to auction. And I said, well, I might put it to auction, but it may be a dumb reserve, to where nobody's going to sniff at it. Cause it's not going to go for cheap because I just think it's really Ruth's. That's what I think. So that's neat.
Pretty sure he had a contract with Hilrick and Bradsby.
Oh, well, at one time he might have, yeah. Would we find out what year that was? And that would make a difference and make sense because I've got a picture of him with his whole set of brown shafted clubs that look exactly like this thing. And I can see this wedge in the picture of that whole scenario. So it's neat. He may have had a set. He may have played with these for a while. I'm not sure if he endorsed them in the early 30s. He may have. We'll see.
Well, this has been an amazing evening. We're looking forward to seeing you, especially in Pittsburgh. You'll have a table. You'll have some of your putters there.
Yep.
You've been kind enough to not only donate a putter, but a half-hour lesson that some lucky person is going to win. I can't wait for part 2. Bobby, we'll try to get that set up sometime. And Bern, why don't you kind of close it off? Tell us a little bit about any last minute things about the convention and if people haven't signed up yet, why they should be signing up.
Okay. Well, Bobby Grace, you were awesome as expected. We had a lot of fun with you tonight. Thank you so much. Can't wait to get with you again. when we're in Monroeville at the Doubletree at the convention. I would like very much to thank Jim Jesselnick, who stayed outside into the dark. Jim, smile. See if we can see your teeth.
Well, maybe a little bit.
There they are. But anyway, go in there and get Jack Daniels or Jim Beam to
I
get
got
rid of that cough. That will
got
be
it.
our recommendation. But anyway, it was a great night. We hope that everyone who really wants to see more and have more fun with us will come to the convention October 1, 2, 3 in Pittsburgh, Monroeville, just east of the city. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a trade show that's going to beat all. We're going to have Arnold Palmer collections on display. Some of our folks are putting those out and putting those together to bring some of their collectibles. So again, thanks to Bobby Grace for part 1, and we hope that we can bring you back for another one. We will have the fall session of the GHS Grand Zoom series. There'll be 6 of those. In 2 weeks, we'll finish off the summer series with Lee Dunbar, and that one will be hosted by past President Bob Geddes. So join us then. That'll be September 22, I believe. So we're going to have a lot of fun then too. So thanks everybody and good night.
Thanks, Vern. I appreciate it, guys. Love it.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby.
Bobby, that was great.